Stefan Schmidt here. I was coming back to the farm today and I was listening to public radio, and there was a very interesting story about people experimenting with some coastal sustainability ideas. And I thought I'd share that with you because there are all kinds of things going on, and I thought this one was particularly interesting. So let's take a listen here.
When I caught up with the waterpod barge, it was docked at a marina right next to LaGuardia Airport. That's the sound of people and products moving all around the world. But on board the waterpod, 4 artists have spent the summer living locally, about as locally as a group of people can possibly live. They've been surviving almost entirely on what they can make, grow, or gather on a 3,000 square foot barge, which is where I found artist and waterpod creator Mary Mattingly.
Hi.
Last spring, Mattingly and some friends rented the barge and spent a month converting it. They built a kitchen, 4 bedrooms, gardens, and a whole lot of alternative energy and water systems. They wanted to see whether they could create a floating, self-contained ecosystem, one that could adapt to a future where resources were scarce and rising sea levels had swamped coastal regions.
We're probably going to need to find new ways to make land that's survivable and that's usable. So can you actually just recreate it on a platform like this?
So what do you think the answer is?
I think so.
Waterpod launched in June. It's been traveling to docks in the New York City area since then. The barge is towed around by tugboats. Not exactly a sustainable energy source, it's true, but the crew does pretty well producing just about everything else.
Yeah, we have 33 vegetables and 2 fruits. In this garden we're growing bean, kale, corn, cabbage, basil.
There's also a coop for 4 chickens, which each produce an egg a day.
Their names are Jilly, Rizzo, Marble, and Bonsai.
Between the chickens and the gardens, Mattingly says Waterpod is almost self-sufficient for food. The barge gets its water from collected and purified rain.
We get enough water, barely. We are very close to not having enough water. We only use 55-gallon drum a day of water, so split between 4 people, that's about maybe 10 gallons a day at the most. So we're taking really short showers.
Solar panels and a power-generating stationary bike provide energy, enough to power the lights and the fridge, and an impressive collection of laptop computers. The crew uses those to collect and analyze data on how their various survival systems are functioning. Crew member Ian Daniels says that data could eventually be used not just by people embarking on radical living experiments, but also by regular folks who might just want to make their homes a little more sustainable.
We have 3,000 square feet here. You've cut that in half or cut that in a third. What can I use that space for? Maybe you're growing food on your roof, or maybe you're growing it in your window. Maybe you could take this example and just take it down a notch, or just do what's plausible in your own world.
The waterpod experiment is ending, so I asked the crew for the biggest lesson they learned this summer about living sustainably. Was it about energy conservation, or maybe a new method for collecting rainwater? Actually, Mattingly told me it was mostly about getting along with other people.
It's interesting because I guess I didn't really consider what it would be like to live in such a small space for a long period of time with other people, and the psychology of that became a really interesting part of the day-to-day life, and how we managed to make that work, and how we would have to have that dinner every night to kind of reconnect and get back together.
Which, she says, is a lesson that translates pretty well back on land. For the Environment Report, I'm Samara Freemark.
Well, there you go. I thought that was pretty interesting how individuals go out and try and experiment with sustainability. As you probably saw on the page at environmentreport.org, that's where you'll find the story. There's also a link to a New York Times article related to it, and there's a blog that you can look at that you can participate, I guess, in that blog as long as it's actually still up there, because as you heard, it's going to be going away here pretty soon. One of the things about sustainability, of course, that is a little bit difficult is the fact that sometimes sustainable initiatives are actually a little bit problematic. If you can see behind me here, I have a nice Vermont wood-burning stove that we use on our farm. Of course, I moved those flowers. But we use that to heat, mostly really when there's storms, ice storms that take down the power lines, and so it's kind of more of an emergency heating system. But of course, burning with wood creates some pretty serious problems of particle emissions, and we're essentially stuck with the fact that there aren't that many sustainable ways of generating electricity. There's solar power. I have 150 enormous power generating windmills that I can see from the top floor of my farmhouse here to the east. Those create other problems. They have a big footprint. The electricity that's generated can't be transmitted very far. So thought I'd share that with you simply because I think it's a very interesting experiment, and if you go take a look at that, maybe you can post something on our discussion forum. So take care, and I'll see you on the internet.